My name is Don Ward. I'm a neighborhood councilman and a cycling advocate in Los Angeles.
A what advocate? I'm sorry.
Cycling advocate.
What neighborhood council?
North.
Right. Okay.
Excuse me. We have a. Okay. If you could take the phone calls outside, if you have. That's okay. All right. Go ahead.
My name's Elena.
My name is Eddie.
My name is Chris.
Summer Reese. I'm the chair of the board of the Pacifica Foundation, the radio network, longtime political activist here in Los Angeles.
I'm Bradley, and I'm me. No affiliations.
Mark Lippman with Occupy LA, speaking for myself.
Jim Lafferty speaking for myself, the executive director of the Lawyers Guild.
Mario Brito, speaking for myself, a member of the General Assembly of Occupy LA, member of Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council, District 2, and that's it. And unemployed labor.
My name's Alan.
Seraphine, member of Occupy Los Angeles, also animal rights activist.
I'm Gina Trumbull, writer with Occupy LA.
Scott Schuster, OLA.
Martin Berg, OLA.
Ryan Rice, OLA.
C. Hang.
Hey, how you doing? You can get toilet paper.
He just broke his fast too, but he foolishly went for the noodles when I told him.
And I'm sorry, what is your name again?
I told you not to do that.
Matt Sabo, Deputy Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Sabo, S-A-B-O?
S-Z-A-B-O.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Deputy.
So, you had something to tell us? Oh, I'm sorry.
Orlando Nieves, Operations Central Bureau, LAPD Special Events.
So, I don't know how much discussion would be required. I'm happy to engage in whatever you'd like. But I did just come from a meeting with my boss, and you know, we've had a number of discussions about a number of issues over a period of time. Probably the majority of you are new to the table, at least since I've been part of it. And you know, there is some clear difficulties. I think you know, to the extent this is clearly an unusual situation, to refer to this as a negotiation is really a bit of a misnomer. We're trying to work together to you know, best manage as a city a situation where we would value your First Amendment rights, and we were trying to work together to see how we could move this forward in what I believe most of us understood as an unsustainable situation, at least for the long term, on City Hall Park. For a variety of reasons, and you know, I don't assign any blame here. I think I did. I tried to do the best that I possibly could. I know that folks around the table were only acting out of the best interests of what they thought would be in the best interest rather of the movement. You know, the decision-making process and the governing process is a little bit cumbersome, I guess you could say. And I think I learned quite a bit over the past couple of days. The bottom line is that the mayor is going to close the park next week. And I do not know, and I cannot tell you when that will be. I will tell you that you will receive notice, appropriate notice, but the park shall close at some point next week. The mayor will announce today that we will be making available, beginning Monday, the additional at least 50, but as many as will be required, homeless shelter beds starting on Monday. We're going to conduct ourselves in the same manner as we have up until this point and be as open and transparent and honest as we possibly can. But as it relates to these discussions, you know, one of the difficulties, I think, is that there was some kind of you know, we wanted to move this forward in a productive way, and by the way, I still believe that that is completely possible. The issue of whether or not the park is open or closed, I think to some was, and maybe this was our fault, was a matter of negotiation. It isn't. That's something that the city has a right to do, and there are laws that it has a right and some would argue responsibility to enforce, and it shall do so. That said, all of the other issues that we have been discussing, as far as I'm concerned, are still on the table, but the issue that I just mentioned is decided. So
Mario and I wanted to make a brief statement.
Well, first of all, Matt, this is almost tantamount to a declaration of war. And I'm trying to use my words and parse my words very carefully. You know, I understand where you're coming from, but, you know, putting a hard and fast deadline like you did before and now you're doing now doesn't allow for a process in which we can really discuss it. And that's on you. I'm just making it very clear, that's on you. And not on you, but on the city in terms of what happens. We will remain nonviolent. And whatever occurs will occur, but we're going to remain nonviolent. And I just got off the phone with Mike Garcia of SEIU USWW, and he's assured me that the message to you is an injury to Ola is an injury to them. And they made it very clear that if something happens to us, something will happen in the streets. I appreciate the mayor's going to open up 100 beds. 50 is the number you said, though, but 100 was the number we were talking about. I hope and wish that you actually reach out to our homeless brothers and sisters at Occupy LA who could use that opportunity. Other than that, I honestly see no reason to continue meeting today because we have nothing to bring to you. I would suggest at the very earliest we meet on Monday, because I think that I would say it's been in negotiations. When you're pissed off, have a cooling off period. And to be perfectly frank, you know, I'm upset. I'm upset but you know, this, you know, I just, you know, I don't like to negotiate with a gun to my head. You know, or we're not negotiating, but we're talking. I don't like to discuss with a gun to my head. And I'm going to recommend that we walk out this door as soon as Jim is done saying what he's got to say. And we can talk on Monday if you want. And I'm willing to talk on Monday. But right now, this is not worth talking today.
I think the plan, before Jim speaks, I just would like to say that I agree. It's just almost never a good situation to be negotiating, quote unquote, with, again, a gun to one's head is a little bit strong language, but for purposes of moving forward, I mean, it is clear to me that, you know, there was and is very little ability, given the constructs of the decision-making body on your end of the table, to reach consensus about anything. So the issue of, you know, the mayor is just removing that issue. It never should have been on the table in the first place. It really was never on the table. So there's no, you know, the issue of a gun to the head isn't really accurate because that is a decided issue.
Just
No,
2 seconds.
no, not 2 seconds, please. I was first on the queue, if you will. And I've been sitting here for hours and hours and hours for a while. And
It's not about you.
No, I know, nor you. So let me just finish. I agree, of course, with what Mario has said. his analogy about a gun to the head was, of course, quite right. And the statement that the question of what happened at the occupation, with the occupation itself, was never on the table is disingenuous, and that's the kindest thing I could say about it. What I say next, I don't aim at you, as I hope you know. Maybe you were snookered too. Or maybe just because you have a good heart and we're trying to keep these things going, you offered more than you could produce. Or maybe somebody changed their mind. I don't know, maybe as I've said before, the folks who elect these folks who are the 1%, are still trumping the 9% at this table. That could be too, I suppose. I don't really care. What I know for a fact, and what everybody at this table knows for a fact, on your side as well as ours, is that while a perfect resolution would perhaps not have been possible, there is no perfect resolution to this. We know that. And we never sat down with the idea of trying to find a perfect resolution. And from the very beginning, it was made clear that this very bizarre, very beautiful, very extraordinary democratic process, which is how Occupy LA operates. Yes, it's confusing. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, they're still finding their way with it too. You don't need to tell that to these folks. They're the ones doing it. But they are able to make decisions. They are able to come to agreements on a variety of things. We also made it clear from the very beginning that no matter what the group decided they wanted to do, whatever Occupy LA wanted to do, it wouldn't be unanimous. There would be some people who might want to go in a building, some people like farms, some people will have to be carried off, and who knows what. But we were having discussions which were heading in the right direction for a resolution which, if not perfect, was a hell of a lot better than what we now face. We were heading in a direction that could have brought us to a place that would be light years ahead of where New York and Oakland and St. Louis and a lot of other places I could mention has gone. And yesterday, two things happened. Things which we thought were on the table, and which I reported to this group were on the table, were taken off the table at least. They were taken off the table, at least, I'm trying to be fair, as something that could be delivered in any timely way. So what we now have is a situation in which an opportunity to do which no other city has done is lost. Why? Because it's a matter of days as opposed to a matter of a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it would take to try to come to as good a resolution as we could. I've heard the bullshit excuse about the grass. The grass is whatever it is, and it's raining now. What's going on at the occupation over there now is really not much different than what was going on 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. Why is there suddenly a rush? Why is it Monday why is Monday more important than coming up with a resolution that might have put us in a unique position to benefit everybody? I can't get my mind around it. There's nothing you could possibly say that would convince me or the people over at the occupation that this all has to somehow melt away with an announcement on Monday. You can get before the cameras, as you no doubt will, and talk about sanitation and talk about dead grass and talk about somebody smoking dope. You can do all of that stuff. I know you all got together on a phone call and the Homeland Security, the FBI gave you some marching orders and everybody's figured out what they're going to say. And you've been saying it. But we all know, and more importantly, those 500 or more people over there all know that that's bullshit. Over here, I'm sorry, I'm direction to over there know that it's all bullshit. Okay. And again, I'm really not aiming this at you. I have a hunch you're as disappointed as any of us. But the fact of the matter is there is no non-political, moral, human, decent excuse for suddenly rushing to an end game when a middle game was bearing some fruit and when it wouldn't matter whether it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It just wouldn't. If at the end of that period of time, this cumbersome process that they have to go through couldn't have produced that which would have satisfied enough people to go forward with anything that they would accept, well enough, fine, no harm done. Now, harm is going to be done. And because it's going to be done, and because you have nothing else to offer, for myself, the Lawyers Guild has got better things to do now than to try to help with this, facilitate this process. We've got declarations to collect. We've got all sorts of things that we're going to do. And so unless and until I hear that people have come to their senses in the city hall and are willing to go back to the table in good faith and talk to these folks and work out something that these folks want to see happen and that the city could live with, I have things to do on behalf of the occupation that I feel are far more critical and far more important. And so I'm not just angry, I'm really sad today that we apparently have lost this opportunity. And the only other thing I intend to say on this behalf to the occupation is just that. Because I made a representation to those folks that the good faith offer was, it was in writing. It was in writing. And I intend to tell those folks exactly what has happened as far as I see it and help them get prepared for whatever they need to do to stand up for their rights. And I'm sorry, and nothing personal.
Yeah, I just want to clarify